roots of the scream actually come in as a poem, a prose poem that he writes in a diary entry. He describes in the poem this epiphany, this vision that he has at Eckerberg.
He's walking actually at Eckerberg, he's with friends, and suddenly he hears something.
Yeah, he hears this great scream through nature.
Great scream through nature. The scream isn't the figure, the specter we think of as the screamer. The scream is coming from all around the nature that surrounds him.
In creating this face, he's actually blocking out a scream which is everywhere.
She's trying to keep himself, herself, from hearing the scream by this gesture, rather than amplifying.
It's a defensive gesture rather than an aggressive one. This is one of the most misunderstood, misrepresented images in all of art history.
There's something about the dialogue between the walker on a bridge near water looking at a city the way we are right now that's kind of sums up the modern condition. On the one hand, there's the great, anonymous, exciting city, and on the other hand, there are those of us who stand apart from it.
He's trying to give visual expression to an experience, something that happens to him, something that he feels. This really is a definition of Expressionism, and the scream is the key image of that movement, which is about forgetting what you can see, painting the invisible. A scream is a noise. You cannot, by definition, paint a noise. In the same way that you cannot, or we couldn't until we had Munch, paint an experience. So the scream is the key image of the frieze of life, perhaps the most powerful of that extraordinary series of images with the vampire and the kiss, and the night in St. Cloud and the Madonna. One of the interesting things in the history of the frieze of life is that when Munch is invited to show these seminal images in Berlin in 1892, the critics are aghast with horror, and it's closed down within a week. And Munch is immediately the toast of the town.
When something is so shocking that it's simultaneously scandalous and a society triumph.
Exactly. He realizes at that moment, the end of 1892, that his celebrity and success of an artist, the way to that is through shocking people.
We're not wrong in seeing Munch, I think, then as a calculating artist in a sense. He may be a shock artist, but he's not a schlock artist. He's not Alice Cooper. He knows what he's doing, but what he's doing comes from deep inside himself and obviously deep inside the psyche of the world. For me, when I read about Munch's youth, when I read about the circumstances of his mother's death, on Christmas Day, in the middle of the night, he's awoken to be told that she's died. You don't have to be an Orthodox Freudian to see some projection of this primal fear of a child losing his mother in that picture.
He comes up with, from somewhere, and we don't know where, this fetus-like, tadpole-like, dehumanized ribbon
Instead of
swaying
the pensive gentleman, we get this screaming banshee from hell. There really isn't a precedent for that face, is there? It's not a cartoon at all. It's not one continuous line, one black contour marking it out. This figure, which is at once so delicate with its long hands and its gentle cradling of its own head, and yet so utterly repellent. The other thing I think that strikes you is the color. Color's quite startling.
Of the four versions that exist of the scream, this is by far the most colorful and vibrant. It has the most impact. It's belonged to the three families in its lifetime, and it was acquired by the Olsen family in the 1930s.
It has a very double inheritance, a very double legacy in the world. One very, very high and one quite low and popular. It exists as cartoons, it exists as shower curtains, it exists as inflatable beach balls.
Films, cartoons, fridge magnets, you name it.
The Simpsons have used it.
Indeed, the Dan Quayle, the famous poster. We are so used to the pastiches and parodies that we are unprepared to experience what the original actually looks like.
Despite all of that fame, all of that replication, all of that reproduction, all of that retransmission, the picture remains incredibly disturbing. I think you feel deeply engaged with it. That's why we use it over and over again. On the one hand, it has a universality. Everyone understands it, everyone understands its horror. And yet you can't look at it without feeling, at least for me, this enormous pity for this poor guy. It seems to us so torn from deep inside that it never seems to lose its authenticity.
Few images have burnt themselves onto our collective retina in the way that the Scream has.
Yes, it actually is the X-ray of an agonized psyche.
The ultimate self-portrait, the portrait of a soul.